I have learned that it is so important to laugh often, to stay young, to stay flirty. He still gives me butterflies. I still give him butterflies. He's, you know, you want to be with a grown man, so why would you want him to stay the same? Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Toby Naomi. If you're new here, this is basically a space for the girls that get it and the girls that don't get it but are trying to get it. I am a lifestyle beauty content creator. If you've never heard of me before, I started out on TikTok, moved over to Instagram, and now we're trying to get our lives together on YouTube. And if you've been here before, what's up, babe? You know the drill. I notice that the girls love it when I come to sit down and just talk. You know what I mean? Like just talk about things that I've learned along the way. I haven't lived a long life yet, but I've definitely picked up a few things along the way. And so I love to share it because others shared with me, and that's why I'm here today. So I'm just trying to pass down the torch. I'm trying to do something good for the world, for the girls. And so today, as you can see by the topic, we are talking about relationships, romantic relationships in particular, which is one of my favorite things to talk about because you could get me going on this one. We are going to be talking about three things, things that I've learned being in a long-term relationship. A little backstory. I've been with my boyfriend for 4 years. We started dating when I was 18, and we've been together ever since then. And it has been the most beautiful journey I've ever been on, honestly, at least mostly because I was like conscious of it. Like I chose this relationship, but it's also been the most learning and growth-filled relationship that has like brought out a lot out of me. And you know, one day we can get into like the story time of how we met and all of that, but today I really wanted to share, and I'll probably have him on my channel at some point, but today I really wanted to share what I have learned from being in one. And these things were not learned. Some of them were learned, you know, through advice. Some of them were learned by like, okay, we figured this out together. Some of them were learned in tears. And I keep it 100, not tears because he was making me suffer, but tears because we were two people trying to come together to become one, because the goal at the end of the day is marriage, but trying to become one, trying to be, you know, work in one mind and one system and one flow. But we also lived two different lives up until we came together. And so that process has birthed a lot in us and out of us. And so today I will be sharing so that you don't have to learn it the hard way. You could learn from my mistakes and the things I've gotten right too, because some of them I actually did well. I won't even lie. Sometimes we got it pretty correct. Shout out to him for being the best boyfriend that I could have actually ever asked for. In no particular order, but one of the biggest things that I've learned being in this relationship, and a long-term relationship specifically, going on almost 4 years of like actual dating, biggest thing would be I've learned that long-term relationships are not child's play. When you're in a relationship with someone and an intentional relationship leading towards marriage, leading towards long-term, at the beginning, like from the time you commit, and even before that, because honestly, feelings are involved from before then, this person has given you their heart and you've given them your heart. And I'm not talking about a relationship filled with games, like I'm talking about the real stuff. If you're actually trying to have a successful relationship, or even just long term, to go past a little time, I've learned that it is not child's play. This is someone's heart that has been handed to you and has been entrusted to you. It is a privilege that has to be guarded quite sacredly. And I don't say it in a weird way, but just understanding that like, this is a human being, and the words you say, the actions, the things you do to this person, for this person, with this person, around this person, or about this person, they are actually contributing to the person's life, regardless of if you break up or if you continue on to be together forever. These are things that like will be etched into their memory. Such a heavy-weighted responsibility. And when I was a bit younger, like in the first parts of our relationship, you know, after the honeymoon phase, I don't believe ever has to end, but after like the first parts of just like elation, like no sense, just vibes, just pure elation, kind of died down, and we actually like were like, oh, we're actually in this for life, at least between the two of us. One thing that I realized was I didn't approach things with a sense of maturity, and that cost us. Sometimes it was just, you know, it would cost us a couple hours of just a bit of an argument, and sometimes it'd be days of like having to work through things just because of an immature decision. And I just believe that immaturity and long-term relationships cannot coexist. We are better for it now because of that switch to realizing that, hey, we have to like approach this with seriousness. Not saying that we're always serious with each other. We're probably serious less times than we are not. You get what I mean? But there had to be maturity in our approach because this is real life. This is somebody's son. This is a human being. I'm somebody's daughter. I'm a human being that I am a culmination of my whole life experiences, and so is he. And so if I'm contributing to those experiences, I can come and mess this up, truly, honestly. And that's not to put pressure. That's not to put too much pressure, but a bit of pressure, because take it seriously. So that's been like the biggest thing. The second one would be, in line with what I had just said, what works for someone else will not always work for your relationship. And what works for you will not always work for someone else's relationship. Over the course of the last 4 years, I have received a lot of advice that I wanted, unsolicited advice, forced advice, helpful advice, very unhelpful advice, and a combination of everything in between. And one thing that I've realized is, and I've gotten better at it like as time has gone on, but at the beginning I would kind of take the advice and I'm like, okay, well, like this person meant well, so I kind of have to take this in. And then I would try to put it into practice and realize that shit did not work. It did not fit. And at first I was like, well, why isn't it working? Like, is there a problem with me? Is there a problem with the person I'm with? Because, you know, the person that I got the advice from is somebody that I trust, etc. But then I understood, no, actually, this is a whole human being that you are dealing with. Those people, the people that gave you advice or the person that gave you advice, they were dealing with a whole different person. And that is okay. You can take advice, you can take what someone else has learned from their situation or their experience and apply it to yours, but it will not always, it doesn't have to fit for it to be good advice. It could just be good advice that worked for them, but doesn't work for you. And it also helps me with, now that I'm in a position to kind of give advice to people getting into relationships or younger people in my life, when I look at them and like they're telling me something or they've brought an issue to me or even just wanting to talk about relationship, I'm always very careful and conscious in what I'm saying, because I realize this could have just been my experience and this could have just been what worked for us. I'll tell you still, because you never know who it can help, but just take it with a grain of salt. And that really, really helped me and helped us, because we would sometimes get advice together and then come and talk about it and be like, I don't think that applies to us. And we would immediately be like, well, that was good. We listened, we heard it, we appreciated it, but we could put that in the bin. Or not the bin, we can put that to the back of our minds. And that's just, it's really helped. And as somebody that was once a people pleaser, I used to think that like, you know, I owed it to everyone to really take in their advice and really like internalize it and so on and so forth. But maturity, again, is also realizing that you can hear someone out, but it does not necessarily have to influence anything you're about to do. Also, people are giving advice based on trial and error. The same way you're giving advice based on trial and error. This is not a tested theory for the most part. Most times when they're giving it to you, it's not a tested theory that like has worked for the ages. So you also have to know that they're just trying their best the same way you're just trying your best. And we're all just figuring it out here, winging it. Sometimes we get good at it. Some things we're still just winging it on, and that's okay. The third thing I would say is that I learned from being in a long-term relationship is laugh often. This is your person. This is somebody that at one point you were giddy over, you were like nervous about, like him looking at you or her looking at you got you in your feelings. I have learned that it is so important to laugh often, to stay young, to stay flirty, and to stay in the same headspace that you were in when you desired them. And that's something that has been like a really big thing for David and I, and I've seen it make such a difference for us. We flirt. We still like, he still gives me butterflies. I still give him butterflies. He's so cute when I notice that he has butterflies from what I'm saying. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I still have that effect on you. But that wasn't just gotten accidentally. That was a very intentional, like very intentionally curated thing, because we both liked the way we felt in the beginning stage. Why would we ever want to ruin that? And I think subconsciously and sometimes consciously, we would just think back to, okay, what was I doing back then that made it so filled, is that English? Filled with elation. And how do I replicate that here in this time? Because the more we get to know each other doesn't mean that we have to become, like a bickering couple. The more we get to know each other doesn't mean it has to become more dry. Getting to know each other is actually more exciting, because there was a time we were looking, across the room at each other, still in like our stranger phase, just being like, I wonder what he's about, I wonder what she's about. So now we have that, but we could also have what we had before of, the little glances, catching him staring at you or him catching you staring at him. We can also have the little moments of, asking out on a date, planning things, actually putting in that effort. We can have moments of doing things that will make him laugh, just to see that reaction on his face, because at the end of the day, this is the person that you had a crush on, and then it became love. And love isn't meant to become boring the deeper you go in. It's actually meant to become more filled, because you are so intimate with that person. And so I think that has been like a really big thing that worked for us and made me feel like we have a richer relationship. Was not everything needs to be serious. Sometimes do the basic things. Do the basic things and prioritize those, because those are the things that once made you so excited, and you never want to lose that excitement. Me personally, it's boring, and nobody wants to be in a boring relationship. You don't want to be in a boring relationship. He doesn't want to be in a boring relationship, or she doesn't want to be in a boring relationship. So you want to make sure that you're keeping it fun, and not fun like, oh, we're always going out to do something, which we do, but fun with the little things that once filled us with so much excitement before. Keeping those, because if you don't keep those, baby, somebody else is gonna give it to you, nigga. Somebody else is gonna give it to your babe. Don't you want that to be you? Think about it. Think about it. I'm kidding. No, I'm not. I'm actually being very serious, but don't take it too deep now. Just take it as you're meant to. Thank you. I think the last thing I would say that was really important for our relationship is realizing that you are growing with this person. In a long-term relationship, you are not going to be with the same person you were 4 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 10 years after. Your person will hopefully, as it's been in my case, have the same heart, but they are also coming into their person, especially if you met them young. So they are still stepping into who they are. The same way if you have a younger sibling or a child, you see them kind of become who they are more so. That's the same thing with a partner. You are seeing them grow into themselves. And so you have to, one, give yourself grace, because you are experiencing this person in new ways each time, and you are getting accustomed to them, but also give them grace to be who they are. Sometimes they may show up and you're like, you never used to use this slang before. What is this? But give room for them to explore and expand who they are. Don't make these confines of, you never used to do this before. What is that? I used to be so scared of change, and I know sometimes that would trigger me. And David and I had to have a few candid conversations about that, of Toby, but you're not the same person either. You're changing. So why are you afraid of this? And I realized it was rooted in, well, if you change, then you won't be the perfect person I met. And it's no, but I'm actually just going to become better. And if there's ever anything that's negative, then we'll work on it. But change isn't bad. Change is actually, it gives so much room for so much good. And you don't want to be with the same nigga at 21 when he's 26. You want a 26-year-old guy. You want somebody that has grown. You want to be with a grown man. So why would you want him to stay the same? Why would you want her to stay the same? I am so glad I am not the person I was at 18. What? But also I had the same heart and I had the same ideal. So that was good and consistent. But now I'm just a fuller version of me. Yeah, I've learned so many more things, but these are the 4 that I think have stood out the most to me. And so I hope that it's helped you a little bit and also made you feel like you've gotten to know a little bit more about me. Maybe the next time I talk about relationships, I'll bring David on here. But if you have any questions on the world of this, how do you talk to guys? I know somebody asked that on my TikTok and I was talking about that. How do you maneuver difficulties and conflict in a relationship? Because I'll tell you that for free. I could tell you how to do that for free. But how do you do all these things and still stay in love? Whatever questions you have, put them in the comments. And if you're in a long-term relationship, drop a piece of advice down below so that we can all learn and grow from each other. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, tell a friend to send this to somebody who is currently in a long-term relationship or wanting to work towards one. Help a sister out. Thank you so much for listening and spending this time with me, and I'll see you in my next video.